How's it going, folks? So today I want to talk about the brand new album from the band Wild Steel, and the name of this album is Age of Steel. But y'all know by now, before I get into that nitty gritty, let's check out the cover. So boom, there it is. Take a look at the cover there. Immediately, right off the bat, it gives off a very classic heavy metal style cover. I mean, it's got just about everything that a classic heavy metal album cover conjures to mind. You know, you got metal, steel, there's a sword in there, a scantily clad lady, even the band name up there, Wild Steel, and everything. It just kind of apocalyptic looking. It just all of the hallmarks for a classic heavy metal style album. And it is pretty neat looking, you know. I mean, this lady here, she's very unashamed, standing there, but you know, it looks very apocalyptic. There's some kind of, maybe there's cyborgs or androids or something have taken over, something maybe akin to Skynet from the Terminator series. You know, the machines have risen up and taken over, but there's this landscape that looks very, again, kind of sci-fi, mechanical. Again, the name of the album's Age of Steel, you know, so that could have to do with what these androids or cyborgs are made up of. And it looks like there's some kind of city out there. These beams of light, I don't know whether they're coming from the ground or they're coming from the sky, but the clouds, you know, looks very ominous, kind of dark, but again, just very metal, very metal, and somewhat apocalyptic. And, you know, I was thinking just now, uh, the way in the apocalyptic world of, say, Mad Max, where oil is a precious commodity, you know, that is kind of the that's how you rule, you know, if you have a bunch of oil and all that stuff. So maybe here, shirts are a precious commodity. You know, perhaps all the gangs in the area have scavenged all the shirts. So this lady's like out looking for one. It's tough to find. It's tough to find because everyone's taken them all. Who knows? But yeah, I don't know whether she's killed like this cyborg or thing here with the sword in there. Not sure. You know, there's definitely a story to be told here based off this cover, but I'm not quite sure what it is. But yeah, it looks very classic heavy metal. You know, I dig it for that regard. You know, it doesn't break the mold or anything. A lot of common tropes, but you know, it looks pretty neat. And as far as, does it properly convey the music that is contained, you know, in the album itself? If you're looking at the CD shop, you see this cover, never heard of the band before or anything. By the cover, would you have a good idea of the sound? That is a little tough because I feel like this cover definitely screams heavy metal. Definitely screams heavy metal. But there's a few different genres or styles, I guess, within that this could possibly be. One, just kind of a classic heavy metal sound. You know, some sort of like a new wave traditional heavy metal, something like that. Thrash metal, something like that. But the style that you get is much more kind of the 2000s power metal that, you know, I think someone would expect a slightly different sound. And to be honest, when I first started this up, I was like, oh, because I had actually never heard of this band before. And from what I gather, there's a couple albums before this one. I think this is their third and their first one in like 12 years or something like that. But so I was like, oh, wow. Yeah, I was expecting a little bit more of that, you know, traditional heavy metal style. So, yeah, you know, someone might be disappointed, but if they're into that, you know, I think they would like what's on here, but it might give the wrong impression. So, cover, pretty cool. I dig it. Does it convey the proper style of music if you bought it without knowing what it sounds like? Yeah, it's a little iffy. Anywho, that's that. Let's talk about the album itself here now. This bad boy's got 11 songs on here, comes in at about 48 minutes. And a couple main reasons of why I really wanted to do a album thoughts video on this is because I've been listening to it for like the past week. It came out April 21st, so I've been listening to it for about a week now, and this junk's good. It's really good. First foremost. And second of all, I found it fascinating because I heard it and it sounds so good. And so I looked up and there's almost no social media or online presence of any kind for this band. You know, all I could kind of discover is that Wild Steel is actually the name that the vocalist and pretty much songwriter and you know it's his project. Wild Steel is kind of the stage name that he goes by. So I won't even like mention his real name because he's Wild Steel. And he got a lot of great guest musicians from some great bands, you know, a lot of talented people together to create this. But I couldn't even find like a Facebook for Wild Steel, the Instagram, nothing. Even the label that released it, Elevate Records, I went to their website, and when I put in Wild Steel, no search results come up. It's not even on there. All I could really find was a Bandcamp page, and they're on Spotify as well, and possibly streaming on YouTube. But other than that, I couldn't really find anything, and I was like, this is mind blowing because it's so good, and they're just it's very mysterious, and I kind of dig that. I kind of dig that. It's kind of you know something that is there, and there's not too much presence for it, and that's kind of cool. You know, I don't know what it is exactly. You know, with Wild Steel, the artist, and why he may not have that much out there, but I personally take it as just that this is a passion and putting the album out there and it's out there. As simple as that, you know, not going to be going out there on social medias and TikToks and all this stuff promoting this bad boy. And for what it's worth, I don't know, I respect that. It's really cool. But anywho, so this is power metal through and through. And the thing I like the best about it is it's very 2000s power metal. It almost sounds like, again, even with the cover, and if you were to listen to this and you didn't know this just came out, you would think this is like a long lost hidden gem from 2003 in the power metal genre or scene. It really captures that sound and has that sound, and it's just really cool. So yeah, it's that kind of 2000 style power metal through and through. That's what it is, and it's done very very well. The production is really good. I love how there's a really nice mix between a modern production, but also there's a little bit of that rawness maybe that also even lends itself to where you could think this was from the 2000s, but it does have a modern, a solid production value. But there is a little bit there. It's not overproduced, and I dig that. You know, I love that. And it's mixed really well. You can hear all the instruments and the vocals very clean. It sounds really, really good. Great melodies, solid guitar work. A lot of keyboard in here too, and the keyboard is phenomenal. Sometimes it's you know more of a keyboard centric sound, and other times there's piano work, some beautiful piano work in here. The drums are great. You know everything is done really well musically. The vocals, he's got a great voice, great voice, and again, it just has that sound that kind of takes me back to albums that I listened to back in the 2000s in the power metal genre. And you know, again, melody is really key here. Great melodies. Some of the songs are more driven than others. A lot of them will get stuck in your head. You know, some have a little bit of a little bit of more bombast. Others, you know, a little more. What can I say? Just streamlined, you know, melodic power metal with not as much of the bombast, but it's mainly, I would say, a melodic power metal sound that you can get, and I can't recommend it enough for any power metal fans. That's really why I wanted to do this video, is because I don't want this to fly under the radar for anyone who loves power metal. It really is an album that I think a lot of folks will really enjoy. And there's little fanfare around it, you know, or at least as far as presence. So I feel like it could easily fly under the radar if you're not already aware of it or happen upon it or, you know, really track power metal releases as a whole. Um, it starts off strong, with some, uh, track one is kind of like an intro and it builds up nice. Track two and three have a nice, more speedy kind of melody, a decent pep to it. Track four, Age of Steel, is really cool. It's a little bit darker and there's a little groove in there that I really dig, whether it's like with the riffs or just the rhythm, there's a nice groove in there, and the whole album is just really solid. The only critique that I have that I can think of is that, if memory serves, there's three ballads on here, and that's not to say that's a bad thing, if an artist wants three ballads on an album, but there's kind of a spectrum of style of ballads. One, on this side, it kind of blurs the line between just like a little bit slower, more maybe emotional, melodic track. Kind of blurs that line there. And then there's kind of ones, I guess, in the middle where they're slow, but then they kind of build up and get grand in the end. And then on this side, it's just that they're pretty slow, minimal instruments, just some piano, a little bit of guitar strumming, things like that. All three of these ballads are more on that side, much slower, minimal instruments, minimal music. It's not big. It doesn't build to really big grand moments, and it's not as heavy on the music and things like that. It's a lot just in the vocal melody with a little bit of some backing music. Especially, that's where you get some of the most beautiful piano work though on the album. So probably my favorite ballad is track 11, Anyway With You. It's a duet, and I really like it. But the thing the thing with my critique is that because there's three ballads and they're all on the slower side, it gives the album, when you're listening from beginning to end, a little bit of a up and down movement, a little bit of a stop and go, kind of like if you're playing that game, red light, green light. So the momentum, it just doesn't quite feel as smooth because you're really going, and then you hit a certain point in the album where you get your first ballad, and then it's kind of like you get another song that's got some pep and movement, and then another ballad, and then you get a song that's got, again, more driven, and another slow ballad. So it's just kind of odd, it just kind of breaks it up in a way where it's a little disorienting. It doesn't quite flow the album as well as I would like it to. Now, if you're listening to these songs individually, it's a different story, but I'm just talking, if you're just listening to the whole album, it can be a little bit, like I said, it just throws off the momentum of the album a little bit. That's really the only critique I have, because otherwise it's a really great power metal album. And yeah, again, don't miss this if you're into power metal, especially that 2000 style. It really is something to hear. And if I had to recommend a song for you to try out, or to listen to, if you're like, hey, tell me one song to listen to if I want to hear determine if I want to hear the whole album or not, I would say go with Queen of Spades or Final Battle. You could either or, whichever one you feel like, because I think both give a good indication on what to expect from the album. But then again, bear in mind there are three relatively slow ballads in here too, which all three are good. I'm not saying they're not good songs. They are good songs. I'm just talking about the flow with the album is kind of odd, because of that. But still, the individual songs, they're really good. So yeah, really stellar album. I really dig it a lot, and I highly recommend it. Like I said, I've been listening to it now for about a week, and yeah, that's that. I just really wanted to showcase this album and give you my thoughts on it and tell you not to miss it. So that's Wild Steel with their brand new album, Age of Steel. Let me know in the comments down below if you've heard this album already. What are your thoughts on it? What do you think of it? Have you known about this band for many years? Because it looks like they started A while back. If I'm not mistaken, I did kind of look this up, but I forget now a little bit. But I think there was an album in 2008, one in 2011, and then now in 2023. So, there's been a gap. Anywho, let's talk about it in the comments below, and I'll catch y'all next time, Ranger.